Views and opinions of any of the guests of After Hours AM are not necessarily the views and opinions of After Hours AM, its hosts, its staff, or any of its affiliates.
Welcome to the After Hours program.
Are you ready?
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
And welcome to this edition of After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Steve Asher.
Hey, Steve, how are you doing after, well, I guess, turmoil?
You know, it's still waiting for the dust to settle, man. Everybody,
It's been nasty around these parts.
Yeah, I think the projections of, now it's time for the country to heal. Okay, do you remember like the 2000, where they had like the whole hanging chads and the recounts and that big upswell of, this one won the electoral, but this one won the popular votes and all this and that. It's kind of like it's like even like all the movie, if we go back and we're redoing all the copies of movies, now we're doing copies of elections.
Yeah, it's getting ridiculous. And of course, I'm Joel Sturgis. I can't remember if I mentioned that in this After Hours AM. Right along with me is Mr. Steve Asher. And I guess I wanted to hit the ground running on this topic of the elections because, well, we got to talk about it. And it is on the minds and hearts of everybody, all the listeners. And one thing that I've noticed is a lot of anger and hatred.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, and that's for myself. I'm much more of a kind of a centralist on it. I mean, it's one of these things. I have a lot of family on both sides of that, and it's one of those deals where some kind of, like you said, do the thing of going, look, he is our president. Just as say if it was Hillary, she is our president. We will do this. Give the guy respect. Give the lady respect. Work through whatever the best you can and try to come to some sort of common ground. That's all you can do. You can stomp your feet and hold your breath as much as you want, but what is. And the quicker that we get past that, because I was talking to my older brother Robert, and he was saying, he'd come up through the 60s and all that, and he said, I really haven't seen anything as like turmoil-wise in a political race back and forth, and this sort of level of really just visible hate and disdain for each other since those elections, and he said it's pretty scary.
It really is scary because it's all day, of course, social media blew up as soon as Trump won. It was kind of quiet. I mean, everybody was, of course, they were speaking up, about who they like, who they don't like, what's going on, the issues. But then a big switch happened after Trump won. Donald Trump, of course, won the electoral college. He won the electoral votes, where it looks like Hillary won the popular vote, which that is not unheard of. That has happened, 3 other times in our history. So there is precedent for that. But what is unprecedented is the level of divide amongst the American people.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's what's so crazy is that, you got two camps, okay, or two sort of ways of thinking at it. Some people's like, well, look, yeah, it's going to blow over, this and that. We've moved past the point of having to have like a lot of civil disobedience and disorder, and we'll work through it. Then you got some people who says, we remember the 60s, and especially here in the South, I mean, we're kind of famous for walking. So it's like, well, I mean, if it would have went to Hillary, maybe it might have been more down this way of that. But just like Kentucky, because Trump like just walked out with Kentucky like it wasn't anything.
He also won Ohio, which was huge. I think
Kentucky was one of the first states. I didn't mean to walk on you, but I think Kentucky was one of the states to go like boom, done.
Well, were you surprised when he took Kentucky? I mean, living there and kind of hearing what people are saying, were you surprised?
Well, it depends. Well, see, you got to understand everyone has their own sort of circle. Okay, everyone's sort of, it's an insular world we all live in. You kind of have like-minded people and this and that. So the people that I knew were kind of like, well, especially because of my family having medical issues, they want to make sure their medical's taken care of, and especially when these kids are straight. So they leaned a little bit more that way. But then also there were some that had problems with Hillary because of the abortion issue, being especially in the South and mainly evangelical type folks. But I really didn't know, man. There was a lot of, well, if she gets it, I don't know how people here are going to act. It's just, if he gets it, I think most people here will probably roll with it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I hope that he pulls it way back and now can focus on the job as opposed to just kind of blowing up,
That's what he said in the acceptance speech, the victory speech is, now it's time for us to come together as America. Let's kind of put this divide behind us and come together, which why wouldn't he say that? He won.
That makes sense. That makes sense to say that, because if he went up there was like dropping his pants and acting just like a clown, it would not legitimize.
But on the other hand, I've seen people doing that today. Allegedly adults on Facebook, acting that way to each other. Neener, my guy won, yours lost, where friendships have truly been lost over this.
No, it's ugly. I mean, like I said, I won't get into it. You in our private discussions, I had a guy I was worked with, that I was fairly tight with, that we no longer speak due to this. It's not on my end, but it's a thing of guy couldn't handle it, which I wonder if he's already loaded up to move to Canada or whatever.
Well, now that's another thing. All the people have said, well, if Trump wins, we're moving. If Hillary wins, we're moving. Let's just be honest. You're not moving anywhere. Come on. This is still the greatest country anywhere, to be honest with you. Do you really want to give this up for that? I mean, you can talk all you want to, but most of us know we're not going anywhere. Ride it out, and I just don't quite understand, I guess, the level of hatred. That's what shocked me the most. I'm sure shocked you too. Was I knew there'd be a backlash. I really did after he'd won, but I didn't think it'd be so violent. Were threats and people screaming at each other, and we've already had one civil war. We don't need another one.
Right, and let me say this, because like I said, I know you've been to a whole lot of different places, and I've been to different locations and across the world and stuff, and beautiful places and beautiful people and all that stuff. But I like home. I appreciate the things of home. I appreciate the way things are ran at home.
Yeah.
And, in my eyes, I agree. America is great. And it's one of those things where, and the fact that we can actually go out in the street and vote for somebody, and maybe the other party not coming up, at least not yet anyway, and mowing you down or kicking your door in the middle of the night, walking you out, and you're gone.
Yeah.
That's huge. But it's also a thing where, if we don't pull it together, man, and what's really bad, I was, again, talking to my older brother, he's an ex-military guy, he said, look, all these countries are watching us right now. They're watching our back.
They definitely are.
And it seems like it's got to be just like, they're just sitting there eating popcorn watching us like, oh, okay, what's going to happen next? So we have no choice but to pull together. We have no choice but to, I know Trump was talking about trying to do things with inner cities and bring infrastructure back in, which I've been down with that forever. I didn't like when Clinton did the NAFTA deal and all of the jobs went to Mexico, A lot of the liberals forget that. I don't.
No, I don't. I never forgot that. I remember that very, very well, especially growing up in the 80s and 90s when NAFTA was signed and you watched a steady funnel of, the America that we knew go south.
Right.
It was almost overnight. It was gone. I suppose we should mention who our guest is tonight, man. We got a great guest on tap tonight. We got Kirk Stokes is coming on. He is a world-famous cryptozoologist. He's also a really avid YouTuber. And, he hunts Dogmen, he hunts Bigfoot, he'll hunt anything, including the Jersey Devil. So that'll be coming up at the bottom of the hour. We have Kirk coming on. That'll be a lot of fun talking about that stuff. We need to have some fun. We need to talk about Bigfoot and stuff and get away from political after this segment because, quite honestly, we all need to laugh a little bit and maybe get taken away for a little bit and not have to think about this.
Cleanse the palate a little bit, and that's the thing. I think people needed a day or so to say what they needed to say. Like I said, I know there's people marching in New York and all that right now. Hopefully they'll be cathartic for them. Get it out of their system. Say, I'm going to have my say. Okay, cool. Now we will get behind the president and do what we can do. And and if he's not, the bottom line is, if he's screwing up and if he's acting too goofy, even if it was if it was Clinton, they're going to get them out of there. They're not going to be in there long. So they know kind of what their reach is.
The problem was with Clinton is the trust factor. And then, of course, at the last minute, they reopened, or allegedly, or however you want to word it, looked back into her email scandal, which, of course, we all know how politics is. There was immense pressure on the FBI director not to press charges at that time. Trump, on the other hand, has said he will be assigning special prosecutors to look into this.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing. What really gets me is and again, I'm not that I'm apolitical, but it's a thing of going, look, I don't really go by party lines. I go by what the guy says and what I'm seeing him do.
Sure.
I know in the past there's been freaking witch hunts on Republican guys from the left. Demonize them to the media, everything, SNL, all that, just tearing them down.
Well, that's primarily because the media, the mainstream media, even SNL, are liberal. They're left-leaning, and they have been for many, many years. Right.
And, and that's sort of the thing that always bothers me, again, being a Southerner, is that you see that how often have you seen Southerners demonized or Midwestern guys were
all the time? That's the thing that during this election, I don't mean to walk on you, but during this election, they forgot about guys like you and me in the Midwest. They forgot about what they called the uneducated white male. They forgot that we still have voting power.
Right, and that's what was shown. So what I'm hoping is this will be our Lion King 3 moment, where Scar and the other family comes together. We're going to hopefully this will unite it. It maybe they needed a heck of a freaking shock.
Yeah.
To go, you will hear us, or we will make ourselves heard.
Well, the Democrats should take this as a shot across the bow. Hold on now. You're not going to, we're not going to take it anymore. That's at least that's the sentiment's been out there. We're not going to take it anymore. We want change. And if we have to go with Donald Trump to get that change, even though he's unproven and he's an outsider and that's what they like, even though he has no track record of any success in politics, we'd rather roll the dice on him than have another 4 years of what has been said, of course, Obamacare and Obama tactics, which Obamacare, quite honestly, is crippling under its own weight. It's unfeasible. I don't understand how they're going to keep Obamacare going, and they're not going to, obviously, because Trump will get rid of it right away.
Yeah. I do hope that he has the foresight to go, well, look, obviously there are people that that are in economic straits that just can't swing.
But he is maybe penalizing the people that can't afford it by taxing them so heavily and penalizing them.
No, yeah, I'm not fighting you on this one. What I'm saying is, hopefully, Father Trump, as a lot of guys call him Father Trump, hopefully Father Trump will go up in there and go, well, look, okay, let's keep the thing, let's do a baseline. If you make under this much, obviously, you need some help until we can get some infrastructure to pull you guys up. Sure. You guys keep your Medicaid. But like you said, what's happening, it's gutting the middle class, and all those guys are bleeding out. They're mad as blank and going, okay, well, why are we the one carrying the bulk of this? So I don't know if maybe Trump attacks the bigger companies a little bit harder, or put some sort of cap on it. I don't.
What's truly your views? Do you think it's unconstitutional to force someone to buy a product?
It's really, really strange. Well, I don't know. I mean, do you feel it's unconstitutional to say your kid has to have a vaccine to go to school?
I do. I think in some ways it is unconstitutional.
Right. But like I said, it's one of those things, it gets kind of gray. I mean, I'm like this. That's like saying, well, why should I have to have a seatbelt in my car? That's not exactly the same, but it's like saying that.
I know exactly what you're saying, buddy. I do. It's such a heated topic. It really is. It divides a lot of people. But I think what will happen is maybe they'll be able to take all the good parts of that program. We're just using this one specific program for a minute. Take all the good parts of that program, like you're saying, keep that, but then add things that will help the middle class, like not penalizing people that don't have health insurance in the way of IRS taxes, which is wrong, penalties. I mean, I've never agreed with that, because if you can't afford to pay for for health insurance, how the hell you get paid for all these penalties?
Right, and do a thing like here's the deal. Okay, if you're within a certain bracket, all the guys, all the different medical people that are on board for the other stuff, they're making lots of money from the bottom to about middle class. Say, okay, we will keep you as a provider if you give the middle class a more affordable thing. Otherwise, we're going to knock you out of the program, and we'll go with a competitor that will meet that price.
Okay, this is the argument I heard today. Do you know that us American people, on average, are taxed 40% of our income?
Every bit of that. I mean, are you just talking about just federal and state?
Everything. You are taxed, on average, through the government, whether it be state, local, federal, whatever. You are taxed 40%, according to this figure I was looking at. Now, why? I know I'm gonna get emails saying you're a socialist. What the hell? Why do we not have single-payer health care coverage yet? Why aren't we like the rest of the industrial world? Why are we still fighting this fight? I know it's money. I know that Washington primarily is paid off by these big companies that have special interests and lobbyists to make sure that does not happen.
Well, I'll say this, and on one thing you were talking about how the different states and voted this and that, 94% DC for Hillary. That says a lot. Like the far left is like, well, that's because she's approving that. No, and then people on the other side is going, nah, that's because she's in the pocket. They want to keep her there. She's controllable.
Well, that's exactly. I mean, I had a hard time finding one legitimate accomplishment that she done.
Understood.
You know that you could actually hang your hat on and say, yes, Hillary Clinton made this better. And the same with Donald Trump. To me, I'm very apolitical on this, because I don't like either one of them, to be completely honest with you. Because I think
that's me too.
I just don't like either one of them. I don't believe that either one of them ever truly had the best interest in the American people at heart.
I agree. Well, and that's the thing. And as much as you probably didn't like Sanders, I've heard a lot of people that were either people hate him or people go like, you know what? He was like a really well-meaning, not an idiot, but like a well-meaning
hippie.
His ideas are really good. Like, yeah, man, let's all get together and let's do this, and that's cool. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, we'll figure out the numbers later, but let's. We need numbers.
We kind of need that number there, Sanders, if we're going to go forward. But I totally get it. Why should a kid start his life $70,000-$80,000 in the hole just because he wants to get an education? I got Sanders thinking.
Oh no, totally. And that's the thing is, no, I'm 110% on that, because you're at such a theme. Because all right, like again, Kentucky, because that's what I know. As I understand, unless it's been a change, what they call, like, you go, okay, your standard of living, okay, like you go to New York or somewhere like that, it's going to be, I don't know, $15-$16 an hour, okay, because cost of living is higher.
Sure.
Well, Kentucky keeps, as I understand, their cost of living right at poverty level. Like, literally, you are making anything above poverty level, you are a success story. So there's zero help for you.
Yep, and that's
been in that.
That's a lot of the Midwest, not just Kentucky, but we're talking a lot of the Midwest. And Kentucky, where you are, is part of the Midwest. That's a lot of the Midwest story, is the standard of living has sucked for so long that, my God, they celebrated a Walmart opening in my town because it brought $11 an hour jobs. There's something wrong when your community celebrates a flipping Walmart coming to town and thinking they're going to be the saviors of our economic woes.
Man, I've seen it, which I'm like, don't get me wrong. I'm not an elitist. I'm not a snob. So when I say this, don't take it that I'm saying this. But I know, a lot of people like, Princeton people, or not, people at Walmart, haha. But you do see a lot of weird people from there. I'm sure that you see me looking pretty messed up from time to time. But the thing is, I definitely go to Walmart because it's cheaper. And that's the thing.
You can't afford not to. You can't afford not to.
You have to be competitive. And that's the way it is right now. If we're not being competitive in business, if we're not being competitive in all these different sort of building infrastructure, we're losing. And what really kills me, and maybe it's just the old guy in me talking, but it seems like as long as they have their new iPhones, as long as they have their the high speed internet, as long as they've got some new game to play or some Pokemon Go to go do, bottom line of it, it's whatever. As long as they got something to distract them, that's all that matters.
Well, it seems that every time, you're absolutely correct. I've thought that for a long time, that people just need to look up long enough from Facebook to realize they're getting screwed. And I think that happened. I think people looked up for the first time in a very long time.
Yeah, like, wow, where am I at? Like, I took a wrong turn. Well, the thing is, I'm not sure who said it. There's two things I want to say. You get the government, you get the government that you build. Just like a plant, if you water and take care of that plant, it's going to yield fruit. Sure. If you don't have fruit at the end of the year and you didn't take care of it, you can't cry. Somebody told me, he said, look, when it comes to government, going far to the right or far to the left, you're going to end in a ditch. Keep it in the middle, keep down the road, weave left as right as you got to. Keep it in between the lines, you'll be okay. You'll get through it. And that's what's happened. People's going to have to understand. First of all, I don't even believe in a two-party system. I think that's madness. I think it's a shell game, and it keeps people stupid and
You know what
scared.
it is, Steve? You know what it is?
What is it?
It's two cheeks of the same ass.
Thank you.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's more of a shell game than anything else.
Yeah. And I hate that because, and when I say it again, and this is coming from like a punk. This is coming from a punk rocker guy. Even when in my most punkish, not like in government days, I was not a burn flag guy. I was not if I was at a ball game and the national anthem come on, I stood up and put my hand over my heart.
Sure.
That's just how I'm built. But understand, I'm one of the last in the line of I guess I'm just old enough to be a baby, end of a baby boomer, baby boomer. So I have some of that, I don't know, qualities to me.
No, I totally hear
I still
you.
remember, well, you know what I'm saying? I remember when America, I don't say when America was America. America's still America, but when America was trying a little harder. And, you know what I mean? So, and that being said, I think it can be back. I think it can do that again. It's going to be different. It's not going to be like it was in 1950. But
what are we leaving our kids? I mean, that's the thing I always think of because I have small children. If
Absolutely.
we're struggling now, what's it going to be like for them when they're coming up?
Road warriors.
I mean, it's getting ridiculous, and I understand. I truly do understand the Trumpers, and I truly do understand the Clinton backers. I get it. I really do. But my Lord, nothing's ever going to change unless you allow it to change.
True. No, that's true. And you have to be willing to go, willing to do that thing of going, look, it's not about me.
Yeah.
To the degree of going to the detriment of other people. And I'm not saying you have to give up your rights for everyone else's happiness. You got to have a certain amount of it. It's just like in a relationship. You can't give 100% to a person because then you're never happy and you're get disenfranchised and have a lot of harboring issues to them. It very much is a relationship. You have to, the government doesn't run us. We run the government.
Well, the government was never meant to be mommy and daddy. You see what I'm saying? It was never meant to support us. It was never meant to cure all of our woes, take care of us completely. It was never built to do that. And a lot of it seems to me, this is what I've been told, and again, I'm very apolitical right now. I just don't even, to be honest with you, it's one of these what the hell moments. Come on. But I see a lot of people that depend on the government because that's how the government has built itself. It has priced the average middle class person damn near out of existence.
Right. And well, the thing is, the middle class in most cultures, as I know from history, you basically had the elite and then just the peons. Okay. America was one of the first places that really had a strong middle class.
Yeah.
And middle class was the driving body of this whole American experiment, right? And then it got to the point of going, well, we'll do this. They won't cry about it. They're not crying. We'll just keep adding it. Just put another rock on their back, another rock. And I understand that because I've been in positions where I was making pretty good money, making all right money now. But it's not a thing to where, I'm not going on any cruises or anything. I'm paying my bills. Success because I got the lights on. I'm paying the house. Most of those guys that you're seeing taking cruises that I know, I'm not sure what they're doing, but they're not paying their bills. But it's one of those things where you can only whip a horse so long before it stops walking and starts kicking you. And I think that's what's happening. And even because even the people that are poor, that are working poor, okay, that are actually out doing stuff, they might be working like at McDonald's and Subway, like do 2 shifts and stuff, but they're doing something. They're not just sitting there and getting a check. If they get any help, I say they deserve some help because they're trying to do something. But it's that point where the working poor and middle class are done. They're done, man. And
but see, it
wouldn't have been like it was.
They've set the system up for the middle classes to fail.
Oh, I agree.
It's there's just no other way to say it, but they set up the system, in my opinion. If you look at it and you look at the social services, okay, the welfare system, right? If you're a success, you're not a client anymore, and they need to justify their existence. You following me?
No, I do.
And so there's sneaky ways that I've noticed that it operates. Like you get a person that's on the system and they get a job, and what they do is the first thing they do, as soon as you get a job, they cut off your benefits.
Right.
There's you can't. Yeah, you can't. Yeah. They ensure that you cannot make it.
Right. It's a thing where I've heard terms like economic prison and stuff like that used, but it's a thing like this. I would say like this. Okay, you get a job. Okay, they'll give you like up to 3 months of continued benefits.
Yeah.
If you keep the job for 6 months, if you keep it for a full year, you can go ahead and get a partial benefit for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Okay. By the time you've been into a job a full year or more, you're probably vested in the job. You're probably not going to get canned as easy.
Yep.
But it doesn't have just like you aren't allowed to know what a cutoff for a family is.
Exactly. Exactly. But man, we got to go to break, and I promise no more politics at all during the show. We come back, Kirk Stokes. We're going to be talking crypto, all things cryptid, Bigfoot, Dogman, Jersey Devil, you name it. We're going to talk about it. Don't go anywhere. Be right back right after this.
Bring it.
Anavar Media LCC is a dedicated team of professionals committed to helping business development scale and protect their websites, mobile applications, enterprise software solutions in the Northeast Ohio area. Locally owned since 2012, our client-centered values truly sets Anavar apart. Contact us today to learn how you can get 25% off your first project. Call them at 234-380-4852. Again, that's 234-380-4852, or visit them at www.anavar.com. Again, that's www.anavar.com.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If you can hear me, then you have an internet connection, which means you can do cool things online, like listen to streaming radio, obviously, or watch a video of a monkey washing a cat. Let your freak flag fly. Or you can book a room at a great price at Motel6.com. Isn't the internet wonderful? Everything you want right at your fingertips, and whoa, did not need to see that. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Yes, love hurts. It can hurt emotionally, but more important, it can also hurt you physically. It can hurt you in a way which nobody who owns a hot tub and lives in California can afford to be unaware of. Yes, I'm talking about California hot tub rectal gonorrhea. This painful, incurable disease can make an enjoyable soak in a hot tub with family, friends, and dog into a literally unforgettable experience. If you catch California hot tub rectal gonorrhea, not only will you walk around feeling like you're about to pass a twisted sardine can lid, you'll also smell like a pile of burning tractor tires. So don't jump out of the frying pan and into the hot tub, because if you get California hot tub rectal gonorrhea, it'll really burn your ass.
This has been a public service message brought to you by the Citizens Against CHTRG Foundation. California hot tub rectal gonorrhea. We're not going to take it sitting down.
You're listening to After Hours AM, the best in alternative talk radio. You got a question for our guest tonight? Email that to afterhoursam@gmail.com. Feeling social? Join the After Hours AM, America's Most Haunted group on Facebook. The coolest Facebook group anywhere. Welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Steve Asher.
Hey, Steve, man, we got a super, super cool guest tonight. We have a good friend of both of ours. Mr. Kirk Stokes is joining us. Now, Kirk is not just another pretty face. He's out there boots in the ground, and he has been, well, chasing cryptids for a really, really long time. I enjoy his YouTube videos. In fact, that's the first time I ever ran into Kirk, or what he was doing is via YouTube. I thought, wow, this guy is super cool. And so I friended him on Facebook. One thing led to another, and here we are, kind of a Harry Met Sally moment. Well, Kirk, welcome to After Hours AM, man.
Hey, I really appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on the show, you guys, and it's an honor.
Hey, our honor all the way.
I appreciate the good word.
Yeah, our honor all the way, brother. Our honor definitely all the way.
Boy on board.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really do.
Hey, Kirk, you know, I've watched a lot of your videos and stuff, but how long you been at this? You've been at it for a little while, haven't you?
I've been at this for about going on 24, 25 years.
Woo, man.
That's a minute.
Well, that's a little while, and you have some really impressive videos. Of course, before the show is over, we're going to get that out there, that information, how people can also go watch these videos. And I got to ask you, what sparked your interest in it?
What sparked my interest? In 1991 in Kentucky, in Spencer County, I had an encounter with what, I like to call a 10-foot tall type dogman werewolf. Before this time, I didn't even really, I didn't know what a dogman, or, you watch movies and stuff, it's all I really thought about it any, I mean, it's something that never crossed my mind.
Well, Kirk, I got to ask you, when you saw the 10-foot tall dogman, I mean, what were you doing? Were you just hanging out in the woods, and next thing you know, here comes this big dogman, or was it a distance? And did you pee yourself a little bit?
Yeah. Well, it goes back to when I used to fish a lot. That's all I did was fish. I never hunted that much in Kentucky. And I actually grew up in the inner city. And when I turned 14, I started fishing. I got interested in that. Well, about a year after I graduated from high school, me and 3 buddies went down to Spencer County around Taylorsville Lake. to go on a 2-day fishing trip. And as we got there that day, 2 of them split up, went about a mile or 2 down the shore.
Sure.
And me and my best friend, we stayed back, and we were doing some catfishing. Well, as we were sitting on the bank, fishing, we were doing pretty good that day. It was in August. And I kept hearing stuff behind me in the thickets. The hill, it was a hill that went all the way up, incline. And to me, it sounded like deer, from what I, experienced before. It was a lot of rambling and walking and stuff. That's what it reminded me of. So later that night, back then, when I was, about 20, 21, we didn't set up tents and stuff. We set up a camp, and we just used lanterns. It was too hot for fire. Right. We normally didn't do that. We would always camp out on roll sacks, just under the stars, and no tents.
Gotcha.
And so that night, it was about 9:30, and it was already dark. We were all sitting around. We were just joking, joking with each other, and I started hearing to my right side. I was the closest to the tree line. I was about 15 to 20 yards away from the tree line.
Oh, man. Now you're painting a picture of me. You're painting a picture for me of these guys in the woods. It's dark with just lanterns, and all of a sudden they hear just this, let me guess, a lot of movement in that woods, Kirk. Right?
Definitely. I mean, yeah, definitely. When and I was sitting on a tackle box that was pretty big. I had the real big ones back then. I had a lot invested in my fishing tackle. And as I sat there, I started hearing what sounded like something just tearing through the hillside beyond that tree line. It sounded like a bulldozer. And it was just tearing down. It sounded like it was tearing down every tree in there, every brush,
Jesus.
And
wow.
Yeah, at that time I didn't know what to. I don't think anybody knows what to think, if that was to happen.
I know what I'd be thinking. I'd be thinking running, Kirk. I'm just saying, man.
Yeah. Well, my buddies, I remember looking in the lantern at one of them, and his face just had this look of fear, and that's actually what I was feeling at that time. And I always carried a small flashlight. It was like one of these little, it was a little aluminum one.
Sure.
And whatever had come up through there, everything went dead quiet. It was like we was in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. And it was like, just quiet. You couldn't hear anything. But it seemed like something was there.
Not to stop you at all, but I kind of know what you're talking about because I've been a bear hunter in the past. And a lot of times when a big predator comes in, everything goes quiet. Even the squirrels stop chattering.
Oh, absolutely. That's the thing. If you want to know what's going on in the woods, listen for the wildlife. That's Woods 101. And if something's not right, and like you said, somewhere there's no sound or sound suddenly stops, you best be looking around.
Definitely. That's as best as I could say it, the way you just said it. So I got this flashlight out, and to my right side, I turned it on, and I pointed at the tree line. And I did a couple swipes on the tree line and the top of the tree line. This tree line was as high as 10 foot to 13 foot.
Oh, wow.
Going as far as I could see. So I hit it again with the light. And this time when I hit it with the light, I caught this eye and the face of this. The only way I can describe its left side of its face, its head was looking down towards me.
Oh, that's not good.
And it was a canine type creature. And the brow on it, I would have to say, would go 2.5 to 3 foot wide.
Did you get boogieing out of there? I mean, tell me you
Well,
ran, Kirk.
what happened when in that split second as I hit it with the flashlight, and I caught the eye was almost like a lens. It was like a glassy black, There was no white.
So
it was just all black.
It didn't reflect. Did it reflect like that? You would think like a
Yeah,
deer?
it did. Yeah, it did. In a way, but it was like hitting somebody with a flashlight that was wearing sunglasses.
Okay.
Wow.
That's what the eye looked like, and I would say the eye was like a softball.
Oh yeah, it sounds.
That's the size of it.
It really sounds like you run into like a real alpha predator. I mean, because the thing is, obviously, it's geared in on you. Eyes are huge. It's watching everything.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm sure it's picking up everything you're doing. Jeez.
And I mean, at this time, I don't remember what I was thinking. I know when the light, I automatically pulled it off, the light off of it, and then the next thing I know, I winged that flashlight as hard as I could. I don't know to this day if it was just reaction, or shock or whatever.
Well,
I don't know if it landed.
You didn't want to be on the menu, Kirk. You didn't want to be on the menu.
No, not whatsoever. I mean, this creature, this was like something out of Hollywood.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I guess I would have a moment, Kirk, of going. I wouldn't know whether I could believe my own eyes for a minute if I were you in that situation. I'd be thinking, am I nuts? What am I looking at?
That's exactly what I mean. My mental capacities had left me. I was in a state of shock, and at that time my body kicked in, and right as I was getting up off this tackle box, the thing, it let out this roar, this growl, this low guttural growl.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I think I tripped over the tackle box. I landed on my back, and it knocked the breath out of me. And at the same time, though, this whatever it was, the sound or the reverb, the vibration, hit me in my pelvic area and went all the way up to my chest, and I was totally paralyzed. But my insides felt like they were being just vibrated to death. I've talked about this on other interviews, and the only thing I can compare it with, if you're ever standing on a gun range and somebody's shooting a machine gun, but it's like 1,000 times worse.
Wow. Now, I could only imagine its physical characteristics. It must have had huge claws and teeth, and just a total.
I didn't get to see I saw the head, and I didn't get to see much more of it. The neck was quite long, but the head, the muscular, and the skull was huge. The teeth were huge.
Where were your partners at the time? Your fishing partners?
They must have taken off while I was on the ground dealing with this creature.
Great friends there, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, I've talked about that on interviews. As I was on the ground and this was going on, I figured in my head I was going to be missing, or I was just going to be, eaten by this thing. And, I'm 20 years old, and I'm thinking I just came to fish,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what...
Yeah, you're going to get
everything was, just going through my head.
Leave me alone. I'm only here to catch a few bass. Leave me alone.
Definitely, or catfish.
Right.
But,
well, let me ask you something real quick. Now...
Yeah, sure.
Well, I'm sorry, because if I don't ask you, I'm going to forget it.
No, you're fine.
So this thing knocks you down, and like I said, you honestly said you didn't have a clue exactly what's going to happen. Was there, I mean, how did you, most people are either froze up, passed out, pooped themselves, or all three.
Yeah,
how did you end up getting out of that?
Well, what happened immediately when I was thinking this thing was going to pick me up and take me off, and I'm 20 years old and my life's over, that's what I was thinking, and
I don't
as
blame
soon as
you.
I was thinking this, it let me go from this paralysis. It was like I was able to get up and run. So that's exactly what I did. It was about 1,200 yards to the truck.
Oh, I bet you did that in no time flat.
Yeah,
I did. Actually, I could run pretty fast back then, and there was also a couple fences too. Cow fences. Barbed wire fences that we came through down there, and I don't even remember going over them.
No, because you flew. You flew, Kirk. You
Mhm.
catapulted yourself right over them.
The adrenaline was kicking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even. The next thing I know, I'm at the truck, and my buddy's got the doors locked. And
no.
That sucks.
so So I get in the truck, and nobody's saying anything. And right as I was sitting there, I think I sat there for 25 minutes. I started to get mad, and I kind of got angry at them because I realized they took off on me.
Yeah, exactly.
And I sat there, nobody said a word. So I smoked at that time. I smoked cigarettes, and we brought like cartons,
Yeah.
And I had all my fishing gear, and so I wasn't going to leave that fishing gear because that's what I worked for, and that's all. I mean, all my money went into that.
DogMan will have to wait. You're going to get your fishing gear.
Definitely,
DogMan or no DogMan.
I'm going to get my cigarettes because I needed a cigarette because everything was back there.
Yeah.
See, now
So I took them.
I was going to say, you may not have been born here, but you sound like a Kentuckian. I got to get my smokes, fishing rods.
Definitely.
Well,
I took one of my buddies had a 12 gauge, so I took that. I took another flashlight, I think, and I went down there and got my pose, my box, and
they
my
wouldn't come.
cigarette.
Would they come with you, these guys, or did they kind of
No,
punked out on
when
you?
I got back, when I got back to the truck, I told them they got to go back and get their stuff because I was just, I just wasn't happy, with them. So they did all go back and get their stuff,
Yeah. They should have went. They should have went with you, man. That was dirty.
Yeah, they should have.
Definitely. It should have been no man left behind kind of situation.
Well, two of these guys went off into the Marines, but I mean, they were good guys. I look back on it, like I said in interviews, and I realized, being 19, 20, and 21, they were scared too.
Yeah.
I mean, looking back on it now, this was 20 long ago to me.
Well, did you guys ever sit down afterwards and discuss what you'd all seen?
No, actually, on the ride back, we were going back to Louisville, Kentucky, and we didn't say a word. Nobody said anything.
Wow.
But later on, in that 5 years, when I had kept contact with two of them, they never want to talk about it, so I never brought it up. And I didn't come out with that till on Vic Cundiff's show, Dogman Encounters.
Sure.
But because I never talked about it. It was something I dealt with it after. After that happened, I didn't go back into I didn't want to go back into the woods for a couple years.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit, Kirk. I would not be too eager to go back myself.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's the thing is that, I've been in those woods, and like as I told you before we started the interview, you get down, especially in those deep, out of the way miles and miles from folks. Everybody can go, oh, well, I'll just do this or do that. Okay. It's a lot different when you're standing out there in the middle of them woods and it's just you and God knows what's out in there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you're no longer alpha predator when you hit those woods. You're no longer the apex predator. They are.
Definitely. I mean, I've found this out, and I've learned more about it, as these years gone on, and doing this research and trying to get. The reason why I started filming, I picked that back up in about 2003 because I wanted to get this creature on video, exactly like I'd seen it. It's so different from anything that I've captured on video.
Wow.
And
man, I don't know, man.
I haven't.
I don't know if I'd do what you're doing.
Right.
Well, a lot of people say that it's something that eventually it got in my blood after I had more experiences. It seems like in this experience in 91 with this 10-foot tall, I like to say werewolf. I mean, people use that term, there's with Dogmen, and it bugs you so bad that, I wanted to get it on film just to show, people that it happened, Now, I've got many things on film, but this thing was so huge. I filmed Dogmen before, got them on film, but the size of this thing was just, it separates all the rest.
Like the big Papa Dogman right there. That might have been the Dogman of the area. Well, after your experience, and did you guys ever go back to see, or did you ever go back on your own to see evidence of this thing, if it was there or not?
Yeah, I did. It's funny you asked me because I talked about this on other interviews. I think it got cut out. I don't know why. But I had taken I asked a guy in Kentucky that I had known to go back up with me. I think it was 2 or 3 days later. This guy was a pretty big guy. He wasn't scared of anything. He's like 6'8", 400 and something pounds.
Heck yeah, man! The
and
enforcer.
I figured, I'll take the real big guy.
Get the corn-fed boy. Bring him along for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So we went back in that area because this guy hunted. I mean, I had never hunted that much. I always fished, and there was turkey feathers all in those thickets. I mean, they were all over the place, and the bushes and the thickets, they were all pressed down. There was small trees down, and it looked like there was a skirmish or something that went on.
Wow.
So, that's basically when we went back, that's what I saw.
I saw evidence of just mayhem.
Carnage.
Yeah, it actually looked like a bulldozer had gone through there. Now, I often thought that maybe they were hunting turkeys or eating turkeys and they got into it or something, and they sensed that we were there on the other side of that tree line.
What?
That's the only thing I can...
Yeah, because they were well aware of you before you were aware of them, I'm sure of it.
Mm-hmm. Now I know that, and doing my research and being around some of these things, I'm sure they're well aware of it,
Well, let me ask you something. Now, a lot of folks, at least that I've spoke to that's in the sort of field, paranormal research and stuff like that, unless they've really studied quite a bit, they just don't think about this part of the country being as well known with Dogman. You hear some people talk about Bigfoot, like the LBL, the Beast of LBL and things like that. But it's funny because, like I said, if I'm not mistaken, there was a historical story that Daniel Boone talked about walking up on a wild man, sort of like that was sort of a cross.
Yeah, he called it a Yahoo.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. 10
So
foot tall, I thought.
Right. So it seems like this ties in with it's not just a recent occurrence. This sort of activity and this sort of presence has been going on here for hundreds of years.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's been the Cherokee here. I mean, there's several. It goes back far because I had to research that after I had this experience. And there's an area close to this area down in Spencer County and Anderson County called Panther Rock. And I think the late Philip Spencer did a documentary called Kentucky Wild Man down there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's on YouTube. I've seen it before. He put it together pretty good.
Really? So there's actually been other films shot in the area of the Wild Man, and I've heard other reports of dogmen. But it seems to me that Kentucky, as far as size goes, seems to have the biggest of the bunch as far as just pure size. Because other dogmen that have been reported have been, 6 foot tall or whatever. You're the first one that's ever said, no. The ones I've seen are 10 foot tall. Do you encounter that same question of why yours seems to be bigger in that area than other reports?
I thought about that. I mean, Kentucky, it's a pretty big state. It's got really deep hills, hollers. Now, the ones that I've, because like you said, Michigan and Wisconsin is known for it, the Dogman experience. But
yeah.
Kentucky, I mean, there's things in Kentucky that I've experienced, like this one in 91, it's stuff that you would never think was here. But I think there's so many parts in Kentucky, there's still parts that I believe that's undiscovered. I mean, I've been in places where I don't think many people have been into.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what, like you said, because a lot of places like up, further places up north, I mean, I'm sure there's still, virgin territory, as it were, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's just one of those things where you get, like you said, you get down in those hollers and all that stuff, and, it's twisty and turny and up and down, and, it's not just some flat area, it's all up and down hills, foggy at night. Most people have the sense to stay out of there. It's people like you and me that go off like, hey, this looks like a good place to check out.
Yeah.
Looks like a lot of fun. Let's go in there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Wow.
And I mean, this Kentucky's steeped, like you said, in history with the Indians. I've been told or read that a lot of them, they would only use this area for hunting grounds. They would not come in it a lot, in Kentucky.
Sure.
And they wouldn't live in it, because of these certain creatures.
Wow.
It's mind-boggling.
It really is.
What
Now,
you'll find.
did you ever find, researching into the Dogman, and of course I'm sure you looked into the Native American lore, was there ever any writings specifically noting crazy men running, or large crazy beasts running into the woods that the Native Americans would have encountered?
I think there was a few. The only one that I'm familiar with, though, that was actually talked about was the Daniel Boone experience where he shot one. And that's still, if that happened, it amazes me, because you would think he would have to have a black powder rifle.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that don't see that happening, but the man did write about it in his memoirs.
I would not level down on a Dogman with one shot. Sorry. Nope.
No, it would be,
No.
That's, I don't, I've said in our podcast, the recent podcast that I did on a channel, Bigfoot Dogman Research Project, that me and D. Dawes has started. And we've had 2 podcasts on there, and we got into that on the last podcast. If someone, I don't condone in ever, shooting anything.
Yeah. No, totally. I'm totally right there with you. Don't kill it if you don't have to.
Yeah, definitely. But he brought up the assumption if somebody was in dire need to, or they felt like it. Mm-hmm. I myself, and he agreed, I've seen too much of them to know that you wouldn't have much luck with a weapon.
Yeah. I've heard that.
I'm not saying it's possible. I mean, it's just, you would need, I would think, something so high caliber, your regular hunting and pistols, your handguns wouldn't.
You need something
really.
You need something to drop a moose. You need something to drop something very, very large. We got to run a break though. Rev Fox News will come back with Kirk Stokes, and we're gonna get into more and more of this because, wow, it just gets better and better and better. Don't go anywhere. Be right back right after this. Otherwise, the Dogman will get you.
Fox News Radio, I'm Kathleen Maloney. The day after the presidential upset election, people are trying to figure out how it happened.
Donald Trump heard a voice out in this country that no one else heard. He connected in ways with people no one else did. He turned politics on its head.
House Speaker Paul Ryan also crediting the president-elect with helping fellow Republicans win their races.
Donald Trump provided the kind of coattails that got a lot of people over the finish line so that we could maintain our strong House and Senate majorities.
A New Hampshire Republican who did not cross that finish line, Senator Kelly Ayotte, who has just conceded a very close race to Democratic Governor Maggie Hassan. Democrat Hillary Clinton gracious in her presidential defeat and setting an example for unity.
Donald Trump is going to be our president. We owe him an open mind and the chance to lead.
But sad she couldn't win an historic victory for women.
I know we have still not shattered that highest and hardest glass ceiling, but someday someone will, and hopefully sooner than we might think right now.
Clinton speaking in New York City. After describing him as unfit and unqualified to be commander-in-chief, President Obama will meet with Mr. Trump at the White House tomorrow, which may not be easy, but...
President Obama is rooting for President-elect Trump's success in uniting and leading the country. It doesn't mean that he agrees with everything that President-elect Trump has promised to pursue.
White House spokesman Josh Earnest. Police are investigating a deadly shooting near the 6th Street Mall in Denver, Colorado. 2 victims have been taken to the hospital. Police say 1 was pronounced dead. Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer.
When I grow up, I want to be a glass countertop in a new home.
When I grow up,
I want to be a kid's best birthday present.
When I grow up, I want to be a football stadium.
When I grow up, I want to be a warm place on a cold day.
When I grow up, I want to be a fancy
backsplash.
I want to be a bike that races around the country.
When I grow up,
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
I want to be a rocking chair on a sunny porch.
I want to be a skyscraper.
I want to be When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. A public service advertisement brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Another crash involving military planes. Fox's Jessica Rosenthal has a live report.
And Kathleen, 2 FA-18 Hornet jets collided over the Pacific Ocean near San Diego. The Marine Corps Air Station in Miramar says one pilot ejected safely. They were going to look for him. The other pilot was actually able to land the aircraft. In a statement, officials said they didn't know what caused the crash, but that it occurred during a training mission. There have been quite a few incidents with this aircraft as of late. Last month, a Marine Corps FA-18C Hornet crashed in the Southern California desert. The pilot ejected, but the aircraft burned up. And this summer, 2 FA-18Cs crashed. A Marine major was killed in one crash in Southern California in July. And in another crash in August, a Navy pilot was injured in Nevada. Kathleen.
Thanks, Jessica. The results of the presidential race leave a Supreme Court nominee in limbo.
Democrats not happy because they say Merrick Garland was a fairly moderate jurist that President Obama put up, and not only did he not get a hearing, because of that he didn't get a simple up or down vote. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell said again today at a news conference that it's extremely rare for a president to get a court pick of any kind in an election year when the opposite party is controlling the Senate. And so he basically is making no apologies, McConnell, that they've blocked the Garland nomination and now have no plans to bring it up during a lame duck session of Congress here in the final days of this Congress and of the Obama administration.
Fox's Ed Henry. Mexico is feeling shockwaves from the election results. The peso plunging more than 9% over fears that Mr. Trump's policies could seriously hurt that country's economy. A big victory for the pharmaceutical industry in California. Voters rejected a ballot measure aimed at reducing prescription drug prices paid by the state for millions of retirees, prisoners, and poor people. Opponents of Proposition 61 winning 54% of the vote. I'm Kathleen Maloney, Fox News Radio.
welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Steve Asher.
Hey, Steve, you had some killer questions during the break, so why don't you lay them on Kirk?
Woo, I get the mic. All right, this is what I was going to say. Obviously, you've heard of the skinwalkers and all that stuff. First, I wondered if you believe there is a connection to that, and if the sightings of dogmen up north, out west, Pacific North Coast, all that stuff, if these are all the same type of creature, relatively similar to each other, or just totally different type of creatures altogether. That's my first part, and then I'll let you answer it, and I'll give you the next part.
Cool. Well, on that, I mean, I think the skinwalker subject, it's deeply rooted with Native American folklore. But as I've always said, I believe that in folklore there lies so much truth.
Mm-hmm.
I personally believe there are skinwalkers that change into what you would call a werewolf or dogman. I don't think it's very many, though. I don't think that situation happens a lot for some reason. I don't really know the full gamut on it of how or why that would be, but it's just my feeling that it doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah.
And the dogmen that are up in Wisconsin or the Northwest, or Canada, there's so many different kinds that I've seen here in Kentucky. I know that Vic Cundiff, he's always said there was 7 types or 6 types or 7 types. I know there's probably at least that because I've seen so many different ones,
Well,
and the ones that have filmed, I believe they are natural, dogmen, that are born, in the wild.
Well, let me ask you this then, and this kind of touches on, because the reason I ask this is this: the sort of the MO of the kind of they're there, they're not there, they're very, very elusive creatures.
Mm-hmm.
They're it can just disappear on a dime, a lot like the Bigfoot creatures. What's your belief, or do you have a belief on? Are they sort of like a lot of the Native Americans believe of Bigfoot, that they're kind of walking between two worlds, or do you think that they're just like we discussed before, an apex predator and they can hide like that? What's your feelings on that?
That's a good question. From my own experiences, like I said before, I think many of them are natural.
Yeah.
Though, from my own experiences, I've had Squatch and types of dogmen that were right in front of me and seemed to have vanished.
Well, I got to ask you, Kirk, does a dogman and a Sasquatch, do they ever interact or do they ever engage in combat?
I've been asked that before. I have never actually seen them engage in combat. I have thought I've heard them, or recorded it, the scuffles. But there's one thing for sure: they share the same areas.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Maybe you would think that you'd have two predators. I don't mean to walk all over you there, bud, but you would think that there would be two. You'd have two apex type predators in one area. You'd think they'd be bound to fight over turf, as it were.
Well, I have photographed them together in certain photographs, and I've seen them together. But with them sharing the same space, just like humans, you would have to get along.
Sure.
And I'm sure, like I said on other interviews, I'm sure they've had their scuffles,
Oh, sure, just like just like brothers and sisters fight once in a while.
Definitely, And I'm sure that, they probably, and what I've seen actually for myself is when a certain group of the dogmen are out, the Sasquatch are laid back, they're not in that area. It's vice versa. That's what I believe.
So there might be a certain amount of working together.
Definitely.
Okay, that make a lot of sense, really, because they're out, they're just in the woods. Because you very rarely ever see two bears going at it for no good reason. You very rarely see any fights really in the wilderness because there has to be a reason for it, and it has to justify the reasons. Now, as far as dogmen go, and you've been to this place in Kentucky that Steve's told me a lot about, called the Land Between the Lakes. That seems to be a hotbed of paranormal activity along with cryptid activity. What have you found? Well, first, I guess you should tell me what the Land Between the Lakes is.
Well, it's an area between Lake Barkley and it runs. It's the land that runs in between the land between the lakes.
Okay.
But it's the area outside of it too. I have filmed the first time I'd ever went down there was in 1997, and I went with a guy I used to do some construction work for, and he fished a lot, and that was actually my second sighting at Land Between the Lakes, and we went on a one-day fishing trip, and we were going to do crappie fishing at night. And we were fishing off a bass boat, and the same thing happened, like in 91, where we started hearing breaking and stuff walking on the drywood and driftwood and stuff.
And did you ever stop and say, oh, not again?
Yeah, actually it did. That dawned on me, that night. And Teddy, the guy I worked for, he had a spotlight. And he spotlighted the area and made a couple runs on it. And next thing I know, there appears what was now I know is a Dogman. And it was probably only about 6.5 foot tall. And when the light hit it, it just turned and looked into the light. I had the best picture of it in that light. And it didn't make any abnormal moves. It just looked. It didn't hold it. The light didn't bug it.
Yeah.
It just continued to search for. It looked like it was looking for stuff on the ground. And pretty soon it just ambled off. It
really it never paid no mind to you. It was like those guys again.
Not at all.
Right.
Yeah, not at all. It just, I was in awe, because this was a bipedal dogman, and it wasn't nothing like the thing I experienced in 91.
No, I was gonna say, being in there in 1991, having the same thing happen, and then you see a second one on Land Between the Lakes years later, 97. And I suppose when you first saw the first Dogman, you didn't know what to make of it. What did you think when you finally saw it as long as you did in the spotlight? Did that make you really reconsider a few things of how they operate, or were you going, oh my God, they do exist? Oh, I'm watching it for a long time here. Look at that thing. And what did it look like? What were its characteristics?
Yeah, it wasn't like the 91 experience. This creature in 97 at Land Between the Lakes off that shore, as we watched in that spotlight, I didn't feel any harm from it. I felt like it didn't really pay no mind to us.
Maybe it's a kinder, gentler Dogman. Maybe,
from what I know now after doing all this, I have run into those kinds like I saw that first time in 97.
Sure.
This one, like I said, was about 6.5 foot tall, but it was muscular. I could see the muscles, in the thighs and the forearms. It wasn't too wide. And it didn't have a long snout. It more or less had the baboon type of snout.
Okay.
And, but it was like sandy blonde in color.
Oh, and, sounds like a handsome guy there.
Yeah, and it just I mean, what do you think? Yeah, it was my second time of seeing it. Something like a cryptid. I didn't, it was like, it took me a while to figure that one out, why I was seeing that.
Exactly. For everyone that's just tuning in, we're talking with Kirk Stokes, and he's a longtime cryptozoologist, crypto researcher, whatever name you prefer to throw at him. Just don't call him late for dinner, but or me for that matter. But really, quite honestly, he's been at this for a long, long time, and we're discussing Dogmen. But have you ever had a report of a violent encounter with either a Sasquatch or a Dogman?
I get people that tell me, call me every now and then and report stuff. I myself, I've had a couple myself, in 91, if you could call that. Obviously I lived through that in 91. I've had experiences with Squatch more than Dogmen on a negative level.
Okay.
I don't know why that is. I mean, I've had Squatch throw, pretty big stumps and limbs at me.
Really? Yeah, I've heard that story before, or that activity from other people where, they've thrown rocks and limbs and really tried to chase you off.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of people tell me about the rock incident stuff. I talked in interviews about being hit by pebbles, and that always happens. That to me is just it's either young ones doing it. I mean, because they're so small.
Yeah.
It's like they're just too small to do anything. I mean, you'll fill them, but the branches and the big logs. I mean, I've had a log thrown at a stump, I guess you could say. It didn't land, in my close vicinity, but I would say it was about 20 or 30 yards away.
That's close
and
enough.
It made a sound like a bomb going off.
That's close enough for me, quite honestly. 20
Absolutely.
or 30.
Yeah, and when that happened, it was, it shook me up, and that didn't happen that long ago. And that happened in Kentucky. That happened in Daniel Boone National Forest.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it seems like, because there's so many people that live in this area, there's a fair amount of people who go to LBL, obviously, and it seems like, and I don't know maybe if it's something about the person or if it's whatever, but it seems like certain people, I don't know if they draw them. I don't know if maybe they have a more of an acquired eye for the type of stuff, just like a hunter would probably see where paths are at, but they've been beaten down. Mm-hmm. How much do you think of that is maybe the fact that they're kind of getting what you do, and maybe even get your attention, maybe even through some sort of limited primitive telepathy or something, mind reading to a point, or how much you think of it as like, well, you're coming in here, they're studying maybe your body posture, or do you think it's just the fact that you are continually going into these areas, and that's what's sparking the experiences more?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I've always thought about that. Going back to the 91 experience I had, it seems like my senses, after whatever happened that night, my senses are more in tune to these creatures, myself. And I think it's a little bit of both. I think I never really. I know people talk about mind speak and telepathic communication. I've never really had that. I think they can pick up on your body language, like you said, and they can read you in a way like a dog does.
Sure. They kind of know your intentions. They know your intentions when you're in there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I firmly believe that. I'm not saying the telepathic thing doesn't happen. I don't rely on that. I don't use that. That doesn't happen. But I believe they can read you like an animal does, like a dog, and they can their sense of smell, from what I know, is so strong. I think it's stronger than or as strong as a wolf's sense of smell.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's formidable.
I wouldn't want to mess with them. I'll tell you that much. I wouldn't want to mess with them because, quite honestly, if I had to deal with a ghost or deal with a Bigfoot, give me the ghost day of the week. I could run right through that, but you can't run right through a 10-foot tall, really, really pissed off Bigfoot.
Yeah, true.
I wonder if somebody. I was just thinking what you just said. I wonder if anybody who's went out there went to there, because you always you hear people that think anything that's not human or not other, that's like very, very, very evangelical. It's like, well, that's a demon. That's not whatever. It's not a Bigfoot. It's not a dinosaur. That's a bones of a whatever. I wonder if anyone's actually went out there and like try to throw holy water on them or something like that. I just don't think that would end well.
No, I don't think. Well, I mean, I've never heard of that. But I've had a lot of people in the past from different religions and stuff saying that this was stuff that you shouldn't look for because it was, on a supernatural level. But I haven't gone. I won't trend that side of it because I really believe we're dealing with a more natural physical being.
I agree with you. I agree with you. It's probably flesh and blood. They are born. I'm sure that they have communities. They have pods. Where there is a sense of community. And of course, I don't buy personally into the whole UFO Bigfoot phenomena where they seem to appear together. I don't anyway, but I know others do. But I tend to lean more towards they're more of a biological entity, just like we are. They're just not discovered yet.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right. That's what I mean. And when I was discussing earlier about the skinwalkers, I mean, I believe there's some truth to that, but I just don't believe it happens a lot.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not an expert on that. But I deal mostly with seeing these things with my eyes and seeing them, and I know they're there because I can track them. I can track the prints.
Well,
and
exactly. I was going to say, how many prints? I suppose you have a mantle full of prints by now, both Dogmen and Bigfoot.
Yeah, I used to do it a lot. I used to cast that. And lately, I don't mess with it. I tend to just go after the sightings and try to get it on video. I just don't have time to cast.
Yeah, it's time consuming.
For the people that do it, it's good.
Yeah,
I think that's good that they're doing it and they're dedicated to it. I used to, and I do have some casts and stuff. But I've just gotten to where there's so many that I run into, I would have thousands of them.
I was going to say, has casting brought us any closer to understanding what's in the woods? I mean, I
don't think it has.
Casting's cool, and I've seen plenty of casts,
it's
but
cool.
But has it gotten us the field day closer to answering what and who and why and all the questions that come with it, other than just the physical part of it?
Definitely. And from casting, I guess they have figured out that the real ones have dermal ridges.
Okay.
And I think to that, answering that question, that's about as far as we've gotten with it.
Yeah.
Because like you said, I don't want to, it's like my partner, D. Doss says, like he was saying in a podcast, we'd rather go directly to the source of what's making those prints and get those on film, and that's what I believe,
It makes total sense to me.
Not taking nothing away from tracking or making prints, because I've done it in the past. I just want to go directly to the source of what made those prints.
Like I said, that makes perfect sense to me. Go right to the source rather than, messing around, and maybe you can get a little bit further on the research end of it, because it sounds to me that you're almost like a Squatch and Dogman magnet at this point in your career.
That's what a lot of people have said. I don't know why that is. I know
it's your magnetic personality, Kirk. It's your magnetic personality.
I'd like to think so.
I love you.
You know, maybe hopefully it would work that way with women, you know.
Well, if you're a single gal and you love a good dog man, go ahead and get a hold of Kirk Stokes.
Definitely. But no, I think there is something there where I have more of a opportunity, it seems like, every time I go out to get something, you know, to get something on video. I just don't know exactly why that is. I think it goes back to them reading you like a dog. You know, your scent, what your intent is. Mm-hmm. I believe they can scent that out.
Well,
you know, if you have no ill intentions,
yeah, exactly.
I don't think they're gonna be, you know, afraid of you.
I'm sure it's leery. Absolutely.
Oh, you know? yeah, exactly. I was going to ask you, though, before we come up on the break and we kind of move on, everybody always wants to know this question is, what's your thoughts on the Patterson film?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Real or fake, or what do you think?
I believe it is real. I believe what Roger Patterson and Bob Gilliam filmed that day in October was real. I've looked at that many times, that, you know, the originals of the film, and
yeah,
it would be so hard, I think, looking back on it, in 1968 to make a suit that moved like that with muscle.
I agree, and plus it was a female on top of it.
Yeah, and that's, you know, a good point. I mean, and back in 68, who would think about, you know, put mammary glands on a suit, you know?
Yeah, make it male.
It moved too natural, you know?
Yeah.
And I know I've seen both sides of the spectrum of arguments, and I keep coming back to that it was authentic, what they filmed.
I tend to agree with you. How about you, Steve? What do you think about the film?
Yeah, I mean, and that you have to take into consideration when you talk to anthropologists and people that know the musculature and the skeletal structure and all this. You know, anyone from wherever go, that looks fake. I mean, I've seen things where, you know, people were beheaded and says, that's not real, because they had something preconceived. When you have somebody who understands the intricacies of the musculature and all that, and go, yeah, I can't say that's what it is, because a lot of times people walk that fine line of, they know if they get branded, you know, oh, you're one of those Bigfoot nuts, they're not going to get a job anywhere. And unfortunately, that's sort of a condemnation of science to a point. You know, it's sort of the new religion. But yeah, I mean, I've heard of several people that said, yeah, I can't disprove this. I mean, it jives, you know, to use my terminology, it jives, it looks right.
Yeah.
So, I would put a lot more credence in it than people haven't. Well, and that's the thing, because you take anything like the JFK films and stuff like that. If it was absolutely nothing at all, it would have already been disproven. It was down the hill.
Yeah.
It's so hotly debated even to this day that something's going on with it for sure.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. I've had many discussions excuse me, with Dr. Meldrum, and he also agrees that, you know, that is really authentic, very, very, very well done, and way the technology for suits did not exist back then. I want to say Philip Morris tried to say he was the manufacturer of the suit, but then
I remember that.
Yeah, but then later on he came and recanted and said no, he was not. Whether or not where that story goes, I don't know, but he did, you know, I believe it's real, but, you know, the jury will always be out until we get that conclusive aha evidence, whether it be a happened upon body or God forbid, and I don't advocate this, someone shooting one. I don't want to see anyone shoot one, to be honest with you, because they don't have the right to take that life. You know, they don't have the right to take that life. But we got to run the break, everyone. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. I was going to say, from the reason why I think the Patterson film is real is because I've had them walk out on me, and they moved like it, and they look like it.
Yeah. And you would know from first-hand knowledge of dealing with these creatures.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, better than anyone. We got to run the break, though, Kirk. We'll come back right now. We'll come back with Kirk Stokes. Don't go anywhere. More Bigfoot madness. And maybe even a little bit more Dogmen. Who knows what else might pop up. Be right back right after this.
Kicked down, but not forgotten. Left alone, ain't gonna take it like now. This alive is what you make it. All my time, gotta reach out and take it. Now, if you would only just be.
Anavar Media LCC is a dedicated team of professionals committed to helping business development scale and protect their websites, mobile applications, enterprise software solutions in the Northeast Ohio area. Locally owned since 2012, our client-centered values truly sets Anavar apart. Contact us today to learn how you can get 25% off your first project. Call them at 234-380-4852. Again, that's 234-380-4852, or visit them at www.anavar.com. Again, that's www.anavar.com.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If pop culture is to be believed, roughly 40% of all people are actually vampires, or dating one. Well, undead or not, you can always save on a clean, comfortable room at Motel 6, even if you sleep during the day because direct sunlight turns you into a pile of sparkly coffee grounds. Speaking of which, we have free coffee every morning. You day sleepers may want to go for the decaf. I'm Tom Bodette, and we'll leave the light on for you. Book online at motel6.com.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to After Hours AM, the best in alternative talk radio. You got a question for our guest tonight? Email that to afterhoursam@gmail.com. Feeling social? Join the After Hours AM, America's Most Haunted group on Facebook. The coolest Facebook group anywhere.
What's happening, hot stuff?
Peace of mind, something to do alone, nothing to do, so won't you pick up the phone? You turn me on, you turn me in, give it up to all, here we go again. You turn it up straight to your head, and I got it, and you're better off dead. Radio red,
And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me is the beautiful, sexy, and talented...
That's me.
Yeah, Steve Asher. That's right. He's a big stud. No, I'm kidding, of course. And we are talking tonight with Mr. Kirk Stokes. And Kirk has been, he's been all over looking for cryptids. And we've covered Dogmen. We've covered Bigfoot. You know, but recently, Kirk, I saw that you were basically, I guess, toying around is not the right word, but I'm going to use it, with a Jersey Devil. What came of that? Did you see a Jersey Devil?
Yes, I did. Back about in May in Kentucky, in a place I was down around Land Between the Lakes, where I took that footage. I posted on my YouTube channel. I had my wife at the time with me, and we were 2 weeks before that. We were tracking hoof prints, and these hoof prints were twice the size of a horse. And they're we don't have millions, you know, or hoofed animals in there in Kentucky that are, I mean, I have never seen hoof prints this big as I've seen them.
Well,
and
I wouldn't want to run into whatever made it. That's where I'd be at, to be honest with you.
Definitely.
Not at all.
No, it crosses your mind, but it gets my heart pumping, you know, because when you're tracking something like this, and I didn't know exactly what it was till this day, this getting close to the evening when we were in this area off a ridge, and the tracks led into this area, and it took 2 weeks to track it. Well, I had seen this thing come through about 180, 200 yards away off a field, and it went into the thickets.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the camera, and with luck, I mean, when is it not, it seems like, but
yeah.
I honed in on this thing that, to me, when I seen it with my eyes, and when you look at it in that video, it's got a horse's head, but it's more like a goat. And
wow.
As I was filming it, I was trying to get it to come out more. In the film, it shows the hoof and the leg sticking out, and it was peering out and in behind this tree. And in the video, you can see appendages on its head. You know,
that's creepy, man. That is creepy.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, I don't think I'd have stuck around.
I was having the time of my life because I filmed about 20 minutes of it before it backed out. And by that time it backed out, it was really getting dark in there.
Did your partner, did the lady with you go, "Oh my God, can we go now? This thing's scaring the hell out of me. Look at it."
No, she actually did pretty good. You know, she was actually pretty good about it. You know, and she was like I was. I couldn't believe it. You know, I had seen this creature or something like it months before in a field, but it was so far off, I couldn't make it out exactly what I was looking at. But now I know from that evening in May when I shot that video what that was, you know.
Yeah.
I know it's unfortunate, you know, I didn't get it in a full sprint, and, you know, it obviously knew we were there, and it was either in a position where it was caught, you know, and it couldn't make a move. But I tell you what, when the light got dimmer as the sun went down, as I was filming that 20 minutes of it, it waited for the right time to back out.
Wow. So now where can people look at this video? I mean, you have lots of videos out there, and you got a cool YouTube channel. How do people search you out on YouTube?
Yeah, I appreciate that. It would be Kirk Stokes 19, and it's right there on YouTube, Kirk Stokes 19, and they can find that video on there. And I also got stills of that video on there, and I got all my other videos that I've shot from, you know, a while back.
Now, you've got probably, was it 60 or 70 videos on there? You got, it's like a pretty big.
Right now I got 72.
Oh,
okay. I think, or 71. I uploaded one tonight actually, as we speak. And that was of a creature that I had filmed back in August of this year, and it is a canine kind of cryptid. It was in low light conditions. I did the best I could with try to slowing it down and bringing it out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and
I was going to say, what kind of equipment do you bring with you out to when you go out looking? What do you bring to? Do you bring anything for self-protection or anything like that, or is it just you and the camera?
Actually, I am known for not carrying any kind of guns. I don't mind if other people do. I've been out with people who carry guns. I don't personally feel like I need them.
Yeah.
I feel like they wouldn't do me any good in a situation, you know, with these things. So There's other things I have, but it's always good to have a knife.
Well, let me ask you this real quick. I know a lot of times people will bring, bait stuff out for, Bigfoot and apples and stuff. I mean, I jokingly say, do you bring kibbles or sausages or something?
Blinks.
Jack's Blinks. But what do you bring out? I mean, seriously, do you?
I would eat them all. No, I do. I do sometimes gift if that's what you're, like gift. And some people leave stuff for them. I do sometimes leave like beef jerky and stuff.
Now, do you I know a lot of hunters. Do you cover your scent, or do you just not mess with that? You just kind of go in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question, though. But no, I don't. I just go in. I don't. To me, with these creatures, I've never had to worry about covering my scent or do like hunters do with deer. I know some of them have personally told me, they don't know how I would even be in proximity with these things if I don't cover my scent, but I've never worried about that.
It could be one of these deals of they're not afraid of you.
Right. Yeah, but like you said earlier,
because it's your
intentions and
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I've been told that. I mean, in a way, I believe that. I've said in other interviews, I believe some of these creatures respect courage. It's a weird thing, but I really believe they can feel that. If you're not scared, they're going to be like a dog that, if you've ever been around some of these junkyard dogs, and if someone's scared, they pick up on it.
Well,
they go nuts.
Has there ever been a case of somebody, Kirk, I got to ask this because we hear so many stories of negative encounters with either Dogman or Bigfoot. Has there ever been a case where someone's been killed, either in the LBL or anywhere else, by what you would think or would suspect would have been either a Dogman or a Sasquatch?
The only case that I'm aware of is the one you're talking about that happened in LBL or supposedly with that family, and I never really, even in my investigations, have got any positive feedback on it. I mean, it's legitimate. I don't think that people truly know if it happened or not. Yeah. I can't say it, but that's the only case. I mean, other than people out there telling their own individual, experiences somewhere on social media.
Yeah. Well, if you don't mind, could you tell that story about the family in the LBL, even if it's not believed or if it's up for debate? A lot of our listeners might not know that tale.
Well, it was supposedly, from what I know, I don't know a whole lot about it. The people that tell it say they don't know that much about it. It was just supposedly a family, I think, that lived in the LBL area. They had found, the family mutilated, on their property. I mean, that's if I'm even repeating it right, because I honestly could never get enough information on it when I asked about it.
Well, I was going to say, because the information, you're right, the information is sketchy. It's hard to pin down. I've asked other investigators that same question about that case.
I've asked many.
And you're right.
Myself.
Yeah, they say the same thing. I don't know enough to even give an educated guess, is what a lot of them say of what may have been or what it could have been. And then they also tell me that, there are cougar in that area.
I've heard that. It's possible, because I've seen what I thought in Kentucky was cats that were as big as cougars, but we're not, according to Fish and Game, we don't have them, I always thought that maybe it's people letting their pets loose once they get, a certain size or something.
Well,
there's people that have exotic pets.
Well, the Fish and Game covered up for many, many, many years. Up here in the upper Midwest, we didn't have cougar. And everybody started running into them. In fact, one lady hit one with her car. So it was kind of hard to, it was hard to explain away no cougar.
Definitely.
Well, that's the old thing that there's no, no pink dinosaurs or something until you, run across one pink dinosaur or something like that. What I was going to ask you, too, is that Now, I know a lot of times Bigfoot and things like that are found around, bodies of water and things like that. LBL, obviously, land between the lakes. There's on the edges. There's all kinds of water.
Definitely.
Did you find more activity in those areas, or did you find it more in the hollows and the rocky areas?
Actually, I've found it lately in the near waterways, lakeland between the lakes, and more or less down in Mammoth Cave National Park, down by Green River, is where a lot of the activity has been. And I definitely think waterfall and annual precipitation and how much water a state gets, you can actually track the path. I know they have on a chart I've seen before, but I personally believe it's got a lot to do with where they inhabit.
Mm-hmm. Now, is the Bigfoot in Kentucky, I know in some states they are, but is the Bigfoot a protected species?
No, I don't even think it's recognized here.
Yeah, I thought New York or one of those eastern states.
It might be. I know in in Oregon it was, back in the 70s, in certain counties they enacted laws,
Would you remember the
but
stuff?
Here, no.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
No, all I was saying was, like, well, you remember like the old. I'm sure you grew up listening to like Art Bell and stuff like that, like we did, and I'm sure you remember the old Bugsy story. He went out and saw something, squatting down. They were looking for game and and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Shot this thing, and then the more they studied it, the more it looked human. So I don't know. I wonder maybe if they're not doing, endangering it for that, because, like you said, it would give it legitimacy to something that they can't, you tell, like, well, these are these giant creatures out in the woods that we can't control, and then people's going to come like, well, what are you guys here for? Is it more of a self-preservation on their end, or do you think it's just a thing of going, look, we're not seeing it, it's not a problem, we have other problems, let's just not even worry about it?
I think it's the latter you just said. I think they don't want to mess with it. I think they'd be opening up a can of worms, in a way.
Yeah, very well could be, and it might even bring more attention to the existence, and also bring out the hunters amongst us of wanting to get a trophy, and that would be unfortunate.
Definitely. Yeah, it would be, and I think you would have people probably shooting each other by accident. I mean, everybody would be, if it was proven to a fact. I mean, I know personally they exist, but I filmed them and all this, but if an agency came out and said for sure, yeah, that's what would happen, I think you would have everybody and their uncle, trying to kill one.
It'd be like deer season. You'd everybody
yeah,
out there.
Be open,
they'd be all in tree stands trying to call them in with jack links.
Definitely.
But as your career has progressed, you've learned more and more about them. Do you feel that you kind of have the feeling that there's many of them, that they're living in colonies? And if so, how, in your opinion, do they stay so stealthy where we haven't discovered them?
Those are two good questions. I do think in the last 20 years there's so much more of them. I think if you talk about Kentucky, I would say there's quite a few, when it seems like in Washington and Oregon back in the 50s through the 80s or 90s, it seems like in ways their populations decreased for some reason. But maybe some people might say I'm wrong on that. I'm not from Oregon or Washington, but I have read a lot of stuff on it. But I would say in Kentucky they have increased greatly.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I'm just like you said, I have a knack for seeing them more.
Maybe they love you. Maybe they have a deep fascination for you.
Well,
yeah, maybe they'll keep you next time you go down there too. So be careful.
Yeah, definitely. That's all I need.
We like
maybe
you, Kirk. You're one of us.
Being Kirk.
But
maybe it would do me good.
You know, they are definitely then masters of stealth, though. I mean, think of,
They are.
you know, all the people that go in and out of the wilderness and for whatever reason, fishing, hunting, what have you, and they remain elusive as they are when, as you and I and everyone knows, that there's very few parts of this country anymore that isn't overpopulated by, you know, all 300 plus million of us. Do you think that's just a matter of time before science catches up and they actually get a specimen, or do you think that day is a long way off?
I think they're a long way off. I mean, I often say these things are masters of camouflage. I can be walking still. I can be walking through an area, and one will be right beside me, and I never know it till after I'm well away,
Yeah.
you know, from that spot, and I'll see it, you know. But there's many times when you could be almost diagonally face to face and not see it. They just blend in.
That's kind of a scary
You
thought,
know, it's
Kirk.
like-
I'm just saying. That's kind of a scary thought.
It can be, you know, especially if you're out there by yourself and you're hiking through there and you're trying to get footage, you know. But I know it's a fact that they blend in so good with the trees. They just know how to do it. It's in their genes, you know. It's in their what they know. And that's, if you think about it, that's their only defense when it comes to.
Well, sure, they just know. They probably only know people from people that run around with really loud sticks in their hands.
Definitely.
You know, so I guess I'd avoid myself too. I'd be like, oh no, there's one of them with a big stick. Let's get out of here.
Definitely. Well, I mean, you know, you got to think they have to know how to hide.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, well, think of how many times you're in the wilderness and you don't see a black bear. You know they're there.
Good. Yes, exactly.
You know, but
that's what I say to people a lot. How many times have we? As many times as I've been in Kentucky and in southeastern Kentucky, where they're supposed to have black bear coming up through, you know, the Smoky Mountains, crossing the border. Can you believe I've never seen a black bear here?
Yeah, and Kentucky, like you said, is known for being a pretty prolific area for black bear.
Right. Yeah, it is. And Daniel Boone, and as you go farther southeast, you know, towards Tennessee. But as many times as I've been in there, I've never seen one.
I have. I've seen plenty up here. There's a lot of them up here where I am. But again, when you do see them, it's a glimpse, and they're gone. Unless you're actively hunting them. You know, you're baiting them, and they're coming in. But generally, when you see one in the wild, black bear, speaking of black bear, it's a quick glimpse, and people say, well, why don't you take a picture? Well, geez, you know, they're booking at 30 miles an hour. You know,
Definitely.
You know, and same thing with Bigfoot, I'm assuming.
And that's the same way with, it's the same way with Squatch or Dogman. I get asked that a lot. Well, a lot of times they're fleeting, you know. It's the same way. You know, you just don't got time. But sometimes it does work.
Generally, by the time you hear them, they're gone.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
You know, and
you're right.
The same thing for those critters too, because quite honestly, they're used to being hunted in some form or fashion. I'm sure of it.
Exactly. That's you're right on that. Or they've seen other things being hunted.
True.
You know,
true.
Throughout their time. And,
yeah, they might have learned.
Yeah, and that's what it's got to be. You know, I believe that's what it is. I mean, they've probably grown up and seen everything else in the woods being hunted, and they probably, or I know for sure, they don't want to be part of that.
I wouldn't want to be part of it either. So I guess if I were them, I'd learn pretty quick to steer clear.
Definitely.
It's a fact.
Definitely.
Well, Kirk, we got about 5 minutes left. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you, where they can watch your videos again, how they can get a hold of you if they've had a sighting, all that kind of good stuff.
Okay, on YouTube, my YouTube channel where they can look at all my stuff is Kirk Stokes 19, and I'm also on Facebook, just as Kirk Stokes, and I'm the co-founder now of the YouTube channel and project. It's Bigfoot Dogman Research Project with my partner DDoS, and he's also on Facebook as DDoS. And if anybody has got questions or they want to know something, they can just message me off Facebook.
Man, sounds
or
cool.
my YouTube channel.
That's really cool. And there's a lot of people out there that are picking up this hobby, if you want to call it a hobby. I think for you it's a life quest and a lust. But a lot of people are
it is in a way.
picking up this hobby. What would being that you're so successful at it, do you got any tips or any advice for someone that's picking this up and wants to go out and find a Squatch?
Yeah, actually, we were talking about this on the podcast. We kind of encourage people to do it. I mean, I'm not one to ever say you can't do it because you're not an expert or whatever. You haven't been around it. I mean, it's a thing where it doesn't cost much money. I just tell people when they inquire about going out and doing this, just that they be aware of their surroundings and be respectful, to the situation.
Yeah.
Of trumping around,
Golden rule, man. Golden rule. Treat them the way you'd want to be treated.
Definitely. And, like I said, be aware of your surroundings, because there's a lot more than Dogman and Squatch. I mean, you have, during the summer months here in Kentucky, you have timber rattlers, you got spiders, and I have had my share of problems with spider bites.
Oh, I can just imagine. Ugh.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Not
I'm good.
Well,
that's just it. A lot of people, they go out there look for a Sasquatch or this or that. Mm-hmm. People don't remember there's other things out there way more deadly and dangerous that you encounter on a daily basis out in the wilderness. One of them is even falling. People have died just falling in the wilderness.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. And another thing that I found out is trees falling on people.
Oh, yeah, that'll do you. Yeah,
it happens quite. It's a sad thing. I mean, to be, you're just out in the woods and a dang tree falls on your tent or something.
One minute you're on a
but
date.
But it happened.
1 minute you're on a date squatching, going, "Hey, honey, let's go get a squatch." Next minute you're squatched. You're squashed.
Yeah.
Well, you're looking for the squatch.
Yeah.
But
some of that can be from the fact just that people have disconnected so much from nature too. I think that's why.
Yeah, that's true.
Like this area of people, that's some of their entertainment. They go out. They go out in that, and maybe that is why it's easier for you to see because you're not as caught up in a lot of the stuff that maybe somebody from a larger area is caught up in.
More in tune with your surroundings. Yep. Oh, well, I think, sir, you're very in tune to your surroundings, and thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. I really enjoy your YouTube channel. I really like watching the videos, and I'm glad that you and I had a happy chance meeting on Facebook, and you're always welcome back to come on. You get some killer new evidence, man. Get back. Get your buck back on air, and we'd love to talk about it.
Certainly.
Definitely. I mean, it's been such a pleasure. You guys are great.
Thank you, sir.
The show's great.
Thank you, sir. Well, on behalf of myself, Joel Sturgis, and Mr. Beautiful Steve Asher over there, we'd like to thank you for listening to this edition of After Hours AM. Take care of each other, love each other, and go squatching once in a while. You just don't know what you're going to find.